Amazing twist, single dad takes in two strange twin girls for one night, revealing their MILLIONAI. The chill seeped into Jason's bones as he wiped his forehead with a grease-stained rag, already dreading the mountain of worries that awaited him at home. Just 2 years had passed since his life had taken a nosedive, his wife gone, their dreams scattered like leaves in the cold wind. Danny needed him, and every day felt heavier, especially as the bills piled up. He longed for moments of ease and connection, yet they felt as distant as the stars. But just as the darkness outside enveloped the small, cluttered garage, there came a soft knock at the back door. 2 figures appeared, shivering and drenched. Twin girls, no older than 12, wide-eyed and vulnerable. Something stirred within Jason. He could never ignore those in need. Hesitation washed over him. Did he really have space for more? His hands tightened around the doorknob as he weighed the risk against the impulse to help. The warmth of his heart battled with a roaring doubt. Could he even take care of Danny properly, let alone 2 strangers? "Come in," he finally said, that protective instinct overriding his apprehensions. They huddled on the kitchen floor, and he offered them a towel and a place to dry. Underneath the layers of grime, he tried to hide his own weariness. He didn't want them to see his struggle, and yet he felt their desperate need for safety. As they began to draw on napkins at the table, Jason was mesmerized by their talent. Lines and colors bursting forth from those tiny hands conveyed emotions he buried deep. The art radiated not just stories, but a kind of hope, a possibility that things could transform. But then they spoke of their previous home, the words bursting like fragile bubbles. They claimed to be heirs to wealth, millionaires in the making, relatives of someone far removed from this hallowed corner of the Midwestern life he was so accustomed to. His heart raced. Thoughts darted through his mind like fireflies: fear of judgment, questions of society, unwanted complexity unraveling. Did they see him as just a stepping stone, or could they sense a kindred spirit in their rough lives? Could he shoulder the responsibility for their future, the risks of falling into the throes of wealth and privilege that felt unrecognizable? A storm brewed outside, paralleling the tempest within him. As morning light slithered through the curtains, an uninvited army descended upon his humble abode. Their relatives. Suited figures with faces sharpened by disdain. Jason faced them like a deer in headlights, their very presence making his heart constrict. Questioning glares settled upon him, and he swallowed hard as one of them, a man with a sneer that could cut glass, hissed, "How could you be their guardian?" Panic washed over him, a chaotic swirl of dread. What was he really worth in their eyes? What if they took them away? What if those innocent eyes looked at him in fear? With Danny's soccer game looming and homework still undone, could he even claim to be a competent protector in this twisted game of wealth and privilege? As tensions tightened, Jason grappled with feelings of inadequacy and the gnawing desire to prove himself. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each heartbeat echoed the tension in the room. Jason's gaze met those wide, expectant eyes of the twins. In that moment, faced with a choice not just for them but for himself, he understood that the stakes transcended mere survival. This was about proving that he could be more than just a mechanic or a struggling father. Could he actually save them? Or would he lose them, just as he lost everything else? The decision loomed over him like a dark cloud, and just outside, the world blurred into chaos, leaving Jason teetering on a precipice of uncertainty, searching for a spark of clarity in the mass of his emotions. As they awaited his response, daylight diminished, and hope felt as fragile as the drawings smudged across the table. The air shimmered with tension as Jason's mind flared with 1,000 unanswered questions. How could he reconcile his modest existence with the turbulent waves crashing upon him? He could hear the distant chatter of the girls, their innocent hopes colliding with the harsh reality of their situation, and it ignited something fierce within him. Do you really think you can step in as their guardian? The question lingered like a knife poised to strike. The previous evening's warmth faded, and he felt the weight of judgment seep into his bones. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the twins, it was about him, facing an unseen jury. The twins looked up at him as if he held their fate. Maybe they were right. Could he really protect them? Who was he to think that he could rise to this occasion when he was struggling just to keep his own family intact? A faint whisper of doubt curled around his thoughts, but he brushed it aside, willing to fight against it. I may not be their family, but I can offer them a place to stay, Jason finally replied, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. The words fell like building blocks, small yet crucial. He didn't merely want to survive, he wanted to be a source of refuge and strength. The thought of how much he was risking sent shivers up his spine. He possibly jeopardized everything he had left, but just as confidence began to swell, the man with the sneer stepped forward, filling the air with chilling propriety. You have no idea what you're getting into. They are heirs to a legacy much greater than this miserable life. His voice dripped with disdain, and Jason felt the ridicule wound its way through him, reminding him of every dismissed word he had ever heard about himself. Eyes darting from one face to another, Jason felt trapped between the stark contrast of his home and the harsh luxury they represented. Inside, guilt festered, feeding his insecurities. Could they see his inadequacies? Did the twins feel that he was squandering their potential? Taking a deep breath, he shifted focus to their art. The drawings on the table transformed into a testament of resilience and creativity. This was a fight he didn't want to lose, not just for himself but for the hope nestled within those ink lines. Perhaps he could help them reclaim what was rightfully theirs. In that breath, a new resolve ignited. I may not have wealth, but I have love and determination. I can give them stability, something you can't even begin to understand. The words tasted bold on his tongue, and he was shocked at his own audacity. The man recoiled, but for Jason, the moment felt empowering. Empowered enough to swallow fear and stand against the tides. The girls observed him closely, and he could see awareness dawning in their eyes, an acknowledgement of a fight worth having. No matter how far removed they seemed from his world, they all craved love, approval, and safety. Suddenly, the reality of his situation took center stage. His heart raced with urgency as he considered what lay ahead. How to defend this makeshift family he had just begun to form. What steps could he take to shield and support the twins while navigating the tightening noose of wealth and expectation that threatened to pull them apart? Before he could dwell too long in uncertainty, a new thought ignited. What if he connected the twins' talents with his own skills? What if they shared their stories with the world, transforming not just their fates but his as well? As Jason grasped the possibility, he locked eyes with the twins, a silent agreement passing among them. They wouldn't be victims, they could seize their narrative. But as the gravity of the decision settled, a voice of doubt crept back in, whispering that this path might lead him into more danger than he anticipated. The door of opportunity swung open, revealing both a chance for redemption and a risk so monumental it sent another wave of fear coursing through him. Was he ready to step into the unknown, potentially complicating their lives even further? The clamor of voices and judgments faded, replaced by the thudding heartbeat of possibility. The storm had subsided outside, but within him, a tempest brewed. Jason knew the space around him had transformed, and he stood at a crossroads that would reshape the future of them all. With one last glance at the girls, he decided it was time to act. They were in this together, bound by equally fragile threads of hope and uncertainty. But as he gathered his thoughts, a chilling realization dawned. What if their past caught up to them, and shadows loomed even larger than he feared? The question nagged at him, and in the air hovered the weight of truth yet unveiled. Jason took a step forward into the murky unknown, every pulse echoing the answer to come. He barely slept that night, his mind racing with the implications of his decision. Each tick of the clock echoed with uncertainties, and in every passing second, different versions of the future unfolded before him. The determination that surged within him was now tempered with the cold truth of what he decommitted to. Not only would he have to care for the twins, but he'd also have to navigate the labyrinth of the world. They came from a world where reality was often hidden behind a veil of wealth and privilege. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting a soft glow in the small living room where Jason had settled on the couch. He watched the twins still asleep on the other side of the room, their faces serene and unaware of the whirlwind that had just begun. For the first time in a while, he felt a strange blend of hope and despair. Nurturing them might just redefine his purpose but could also shatter everything he worked for. He knew he had to form a plan. What could he provide for the girls that their previous life didn't? Love, yes. Security, certainly. But he needed something tangible, something solid that could build a bridge from where they were to where they needed to go. He grabbed his notebook, the pages filled with mundane notes, doodles, and dreams, and flipped to a blank page. Jason began to jot down ideas, art classes for the twins, maybe a local exhibit to showcase their work. All those sleepless nights he had spent contemplating his own life distilled into this moment felt empowering. Sharing their art could be the catharsis he'd hoped for, not just for the girls but for himself too. Turning their sketches into a message of resilience could resonate with others who felt powerless, gathering a support network, a community, albeit one wrought from hardship. As he wrote, a thought struck him: he needed legal guidance. The ominous figure from the previous encounter had left a trace of fear and uncertainty weighing on him, like a shadow getting ready to pounce. He needed to understand his rights and prepare for any potential confrontation. He quickly searched online for local legal aid. He'd never connected so personally to the cause of childhood guardianship before. Stepping into the role of protector demanded an understanding of legal frameworks as well as emotional support. After a few minutes of research, he found a firm specializing in family law with a good reputation. Perhaps he could reach out for a consultation. Feeling a slight sense of progress, Jason closed his notebook, exhaling deeply. Just then, he was jolted from his thoughts by the sound of the twins stirring in their makeshift beds. As they blinked awake, he felt a rush of affection mixed with the weight of his choices. How he cared for them could either fortify them or unravel him. "Good morning," he greeted with a tentative smile, their sleepy faces both vulnerable and challenging. "We were dreaming about art," one of them said through a yawn, her eyes lighting up, still wrapped in the remnants of sleep. Jason couldn't help but chuckle, a heartwarming, chaotic element of life where dreams and reality intersected. "That's great. I have an idea. Would you both like to work on something special today?" The twins exchanged glances filled with excitement and curiosity. Their nods were almost synchronized, and Jason felt a flicker of joy, a reminder that sometimes connections could be forged through shared aspirations. "Let us make our own exhibit," Jason proposed, enthusiasm flooding his voice. "We can invite our friends and family to show what we can do together. Art has power, and we can use it to tell your story." As they began brainstorming ideas, Jason felt a newfound sense of agency grow within him. Each suggestion from the twins built upon his own realizations, showing him they were not merely victims, they were vibrant, imaginative souls yearning to forge their own paths. But just as they began sketching their plans, Jason's phone buzzed on the coffee table. The tension in his chest tightened as he recognized the number, an old acquaintance from his past with connections to the very life he was trying to leave behind. Maybe it was just a call from someone needing help or advice, yet a cold thread of apprehension snaked its way through him. The choices he made now could resonate far beyond the comforting walls of his home. He hesitated, knowing the conversation could unravel everything he was building. As he reached for his phone, the butterflies in his stomach multiplied. This was not merely about him anymore. Would he find the courage to answer, or would fear dictate his actions? The future loomed uncertain, and the weight of his next decision felt heavier than ever before. The ringing persisted, a relentless reminder of unresolved past connections. Jason's heart raced as he weighed the options: answer and risk complicating everything, or ignore and maintain the fragile bubble of progress he was beginning to create with the twins. He glanced at their eager faces, eyes full of anticipation for the day ahead. It felt as if he owed it to them to at least hear what the caller had to say. With a deep breath, he picked up the phone, steeling himself for whatever came next. "Hello?" he answered, his voice surprisingly steady. "Hey, Jason. It's Greg. We need to talk." The familiarity of Greg's voice sent a ripple of discomfort through him. They had once been close friends, intertwined in a world of networking and opportunities, yet that world felt like a distant echo. He was now trying to redefine his life, detached from its allure. "What's the matter?" Jason replied, forcing a tone of casualness he didn't feel. "I know about the twins," Greg said, his tone shifting to something heavier. "Word travels fast in our circles, and it seems you've taken on quite a responsibility." "Yeah, well, it's none of your concern." "I'm fine," he responded, his defensiveness creeping to the surface, driven by the instinct to protect the twins from the very world Greg represented. "Not so fast. You think you can just take them in, brush aside your old life, and everything will magically work? You're playing in deep waters, my friend." Jason's blood boiled. The last thing he needed was advice from someone still entangled in the web of privilege and power. "What do you want, Greg?" "I want to help you. Look, there's been talk of legal issues surrounding their situation. Who knows what kind of trouble you might be stepping into? I can connect you with someone who knows how to navigate this, if you're serious about taking care of them." The proposition hovered in the air, swirling with both danger and possibility. Could Greg be trusted? Would working with someone from his past jeopardize what he was attempting to build, or might it offer him the guidance needed to protect the twins? The fine line between ambition and compromise blurred in his mind. "I can manage on my own," Jason retorted, channeling his mounting anxiety into defensiveness. "Can you?" Greg challenged. "What's your plan? How will you provide for them? Is love enough? Because this isn't a story where a happy ending simply falls into place." In the bleak honesty of Greg's words, Jason felt an unsettling truth surface. Love, no matter how profound, would not shield them from the cold realities they might face. Here he was, standing on the precipice of change, yet unsure if the ground beneath him would hold. "I'll find a way," he replied, more resolute but tinged with uncertainty. "Fine. Just remember, Jason, it's a world full of sharks. Don't think you can navigate it alone." The call ended, leaving Jason in a labyrinth of thoughts. He turned to the twins, their attentiveness palpable, waiting for his next move. Ignoring the mounting pressure building within him felt impossible now. "Change of plans," he announced, startling himself with his sudden decision. "Let's go learn about art in a different way, maybe a visit to a gallery. I need you both to help me understand something important." "What is it?" one of the twins asked, intrigued. "I need to figure out how to build a safe space for us, a home. But I can't do it without your thoughts and ideas. We're in this together." As they gathered their things and promised each other input on how to create a solid foundation, Jason realized that every step he took wouldn't just build walls, it would carve out their identity. What he lacked in experience, he could supplement with the girls' boundless creativity, yet, with every stride toward understanding, a nagging question lingered: was he truly prepared to face the storm brewing on the horizon? Just as they exited the apartment, a sense of impending confrontation loomed over him. He hadn't just committed to caring for the twins, he had also opened the door to the shadows of his past, with consequences still waiting to unfold. Would he muster the strength to protect them from his choices, or would the weight of his history drag them down? The gallery was a world of imagination, a vibrant tapestry of colors and shapes softly illuminated under high ceilings, but Jason felt an unexpected heaviness in the air. Though art often served as an escape for him, every brushstroke now carried the weight of his choices and unspoken fears. The twins flitted around, their delight palpable, but Jason's mind was a whirlpool of conflicting emotions. As they walked through the exhibits, each piece captured the girl's attention. His own heart, however, was tethered to the conversation he had with Greg. Was he truly equipped to take on the complexities of raising the twins while battling the ghosts of his past life? He wanted to be their anchor, but self-doubt churned within him. What if he wasn't enough? When they paused in front of a large abstract piece, filled with chaotic reds and blues, one of the twins stepped forward. Look at how it all swirls together. There's chaos, but it makes sense somehow, she said, her finger tracing the lines of the canvas. Exactly, Jason replied, mindlessly mirroring her gesture. Art often reflects life that way. Something about her insight sparked a flicker of realization within him. Perhaps navigating their situation was akin to navigating this artwork, finding meaning within the chaos, working to create something beautiful out of uncertainty. He needed to choose to act, rather than succumb to fear. The twins pulled him towards a quiet corner of the gallery, where a smaller piece captured their attention. Made from recycled materials, it expressed themes of rebirth and resilience. The girls gasped in unison. Look, Jason. It's like it's telling a story. Feeling a surge of responsibility, Jason took a deep breath. What do you think this story is? He asked, eager for their perspective. It's about starting over. The other twin exclaimed. Like how we are. Their enthusiasm opened doors in his heart. It wasn't just about him building a safe haven for them, it was a collaborative effort. They were all learning, growing, and creating together. Maybe, just maybe, they could craft a narrative that intertwined their lives in a way that embraced both vulnerability and strength. As the afternoon wore on and they explored more pieces, Jason made a mental note to integrate elements from these experiences into their new home. Art had always been a reflection of the human experience. Maybe their home could be a canvas of sorts, a collaborative project that encapsulated their journey. By the time they stepped back into the world beyond the gallery, Jason felt a budding sense of clarity coalesce around him. Yes, there were uncertainties, but there was also a burgeoning unity. They were all in this together. But just as he began to feel the weight of his resolve solidify, Greg's voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of the lurking dangers. He couldn't ignore the complexities of legality in their situation. His past choices were like shadows, trailing behind him. The thought unnerved him but nudged him forward. He needed a strategy, a clearer plan to solidify the foundations of their new life while being aware of potential threats. If he did not act decisively, the fluid uncertainties could easily morph into adversities. As they walked back toward their apartment, the vibrant bursts of color from the gallery lingered in Jason's mind, encouraging him. But the reality of the challenges ahead loomed, as unavoidable as the shadows that followed. How would he solidify their home and secure their future without losing himself in the process? Suddenly, Jason was pulled from his thoughts as he spotted a familiar figure standing on the corner near their building. Greg's presence stirred the tension he had tried to shake. The confrontation he had hoped to avoid was here, and with it, the reality of his choices and their consequences was about to unfurl. Was he ready to face Greg again? And would this time lead to collaboration, or a painstaking unraveling of all he was trying to protect? Jason's breath caught in his throat as he approached Greg. The familiarity of the looming figure, with sharp features and an intimidating stance, sent icy tendrils down his spine. This encounter felt like standing on the precipice of an abyss, with uncertainty swirling below. Jason, Greg greeted, his voice coated with an edge that felt both familiar and menacing. We need to talk. Every muscle in Jason's body tensed, the instinct to retreat battling with the pressing need to confront his past. The twins, oblivious to the charged atmosphere, chatted excitedly about their day at the gallery. They giggled and tugged at Jason's arms, unaware of the storm brewing above them. Can we talk somewhere private? Greg cut through their innocence, and Jason felt the weight of that request. He could already sense the familiar dance of power shifting, the intimidation creeping back in. Not now, not in front of the girls, Jason replied curtly, trying to maintain his composure. His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage. He wanted to shield his daughters from all of it, especially from the remnants of a life that had once felt so suffocating. Greg leaned in, voice dropping to a murmur. Then let's make this quick. I'm not here to play games. We both know there are things we need to address. Your new life, these girls, my involvement, it's all interconnected. Jason felt a pang in his chest. They're not your concern anymore, he asserted, feeling a flicker of defiance igniting within him. The twins deserved a chance at a new beginning, a chance to thrive without bearing the weight of his past mistakes or Greg's ominous presence. Is that so? You really think you can pull this off alone? Greg raised an eyebrow, skepticism dripping from his words. You think you can build a life here while ignoring the reality of what you're up against? You're playing with fire, my friend. The conviction in Greg's voice felt like a challenge. It ignited something in Jason, an urgency not only to defend his decisions but to reinforce his role as the protector of the twins. I'm doing this for them, he replied, carefully choosing his words. I'll make it work. I have to. A flicker of amusement crossed Greg's face. For them, or for you? The question hung heavily in the air, cracking open a fissure in Jason's carefully built walls. Was he really capable of doing this? He felt a mix of indignation and panic as he wrestled with his thoughts. It's about them being okay, free from the past, he said, pushing his voice forward with force. Yet even as he spoke, doubts clawed at him. Was he merely running from his past, or actively crafting a new identity for them all? Just remember, Jason, Greg continued, his eyes narrowing slightly, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Jason nodded curtly as Greg turned to leave, the weight of their conversation settling heavily on his shoulders. A sense of urgency burned within him, calling him to establish boundaries, to draw a line where Greg's influence could not extend. But could he really manage this alone? As the twins tugged at him to focus on their discussion about the abstract pieces they loved, Jason found himself analyzing their excitement through a different lens. Each smile, each laugh, felt like a heartbeat of hope against the encroaching shadows of his past. Determination sparked alongside anxiety. He had to formulate a plan, and fast. Not only did he want to safeguard the girls, but he wanted to prove to himself that he could rise to this challenge. That night, as he tucked the twins into bed, Jason made a silent vow. Each day would be meticulously planned to build a fortress around their lives, a life where creativity flourished, where past demons stood no chance of invading, but the looming question remained, how far would Greg go to insert himself back into Jason's world? As Jason left the girls' room and closed the door, a frisson of fear curled within him. The time had come for him to take control before it was too late. And with that thought came a new realization: the real battle had just begun. Jason woke the next morning with a sense of urgency thrumming in his veins, the weight of the night's discussions with Greg still clinging to him. Slipping out of bed quietly, he took a moment to breathe deeply, absorbing the peaceful sounds of his daughter's gentle breaths. They had no idea of the tension surrounding their dad, nor of the dark shadows that lingered just outside their newly crafted life. With determined resolve, he planned their day to be purposeful. The twins had recently expressed interest in painting, a passion Jason had long since abandoned. Today, however, he felt it would be beneficial for all of them to explore that together. Perhaps if he could channel their artistic energy, it might help him find clarity for himself. At breakfast, he shared his idea, noticing the way their eyes lit up, bright with enthusiasm. In that moment, Jason felt a flicker of something he thought lost, the sense of joy in creating and experiencing something new. They discussed colors and methods, and he found himself swept away in their excitement, temporarily releasing the tensions that had gripped him for days. The gallery visit yesterday had rekindled not just the girls' excitement but also his own long-buried ambitions. It was a moment of startling clarity that he had been neglecting a part of himself, one that could bridge the chasm between his past and present. He wasn't just running, he was preparing to build something from the remnants of his former life, using the colors of love and creativity. After breakfast, they set up makeshift easels in the living room. As the twins debated colors and designs, Jason felt a pulse of fear creeping into his mind. Was he ready to pursue this venture alongside them? For the first time, creative expression opened a door he had firmly closed, hiding behind parental duties and the ghosts of his past. The paint flowed, the laughter echoed, yet beneath the surface remained the gnawing thought of Greg's invasive presence. It hovered over him like a dark storm cloud, ready to disrupt this precious moment. How would he defend this fragile space he was creating? Each stroke of paint became a metaphor for the choices he needed to make. Suddenly, an idea sparked within him. Inspired by the art surrounding them, he would document his journey, creating a blog to share their artistic progress and experiences. Not only could it help connect with others, but it might also serve as an accountability tool for his promise to himself. With every post, he could reveal layers of vulnerability, transforming his discomfort into art. "Dad, look!" One of the twins beckoned with excitement, waving her paintbrush. Jason turned to see their efforts emerging into a riot of colors on the pages, each smear and stroke symbolizing a piece of their hearts. It struck him, they were not just playing but constructing a narrative, a new identity for their family. In that moment, he decided he would share not only their artwork but his own journey as a father, reclaiming purpose. As the day drifted on, he worked alongside them, finally starting to shed the weight of anxiety. It was cathartic, each stroke progressively replacing fear with hope. Later, as he prepared to post their first blog entry, his phone buzzed, jolting him back to reality. A message from Greg flashed across the screen, cold and demanding. "We need to talk. It's crucial." The butterflies that had started to settle in his stomach began to flutter anew. With his artwork behind him and the blog's first post poised to go live, Jason faced a defining moment. The battle between embracing new beginnings and confronting an encroaching force was growing imminent, that he felt a surge of determination rise within him. It was time to face Greg, but this time, he wouldn't just be defending his new life, he would be standing firm in the strength he was still discovering within himself. What would this confrontation yield? Would he emerge stronger, or would Greg's shadow snuff out the light he so desperately sought? Only one way to find out. Jason stared at the screen, Greg's message burning into his consciousness. He felt a mix of dread and determination. This was more than just a confrontation, it was about the future he envisioned for himself and his daughters. Every day, they painted their lives anew, but how could he nurture that canvas while stepping back into a room filled with tension and confrontation? His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should he respond immediately or give himself a moment to gather his thoughts? Taking a deep breath, he opted for a pause. He needed clarity. "Can I have a minute?" he asked, looking at the twins. They were absorbed in their creative whirl, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within him. A moment of calm compared to the storm he was about to face. After sneaking a glance at their splattered canvases, he retreated to his bedroom, closing the door on that vibrant world for a moment of reflection. He inspected his own thoughts, chasing the racing pulse of fear. What did Greg want now? Was it to reclaim his authority? To reiterate the chaos he thought he'd escaped? Or perhaps it was an attempt to manipulate him back into the inescapable cycle of guilt and obligation? Jason's heart began to pound anew, not from fear but from a burgeoning sense of responsibility. He had found the first inklings of his own voice, and he couldn't let that slip away again. It was time for clarity, not just for himself but for his daughters too. They deserved to see their father protect the life they were building. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email notification, reminders about bills, work obligations, notifications that felt less important than the revelation that had taken root in him. He was reclaiming his narrative. No longer a passive figure in his life. With a sudden rush of inspiration, Jason pulled the laptop onto his lap. The blog entry titled "Reclaiming My Canvas" began to manifest itself as words flowed until he had penned not just a message to his audience but also one to himself. Every day presents an opportunity to choose our own reality. He felt a sense of empowerment as he wrote, detailing not only their artistic journey but his deepest fears about Greg's looming presence. In articulating his turmoil, he distilled his anxiety into affirmation. The girls' voices bubbled joyfully from the living room. He could hear the laughter through the door, a sugary reminder of what was at stake. He couldn't allow Greg to silence that laughter or drown out the colors they had begun to embody. Minutes slipped by, and as he hit publish on the blog entry, Jason felt a wave of relief wash over him. It was more than a collection of thoughts, it represented his commitment to transparency and growth. Yet, it also ignited a spark of anxiety within him. What would Greg do next? There was no turning back now. With every moment passed, The anticipation of confrontation melded with the pride of self-discovery, a duality that spurred his determination to stand firm. The phone buzzed again, 3 unread messages blinking on the screen, each a reminder of the confrontation he had been avoiding. Taking a deep breath, he stood, gathering courage as he opened the door to face not just his past but the uncertain future that awaited him and his daughters. "Hey, girls. Let's take a break," he called out, forcing cheerfulness into his tone, hiding the anxious knot tightening in his stomach. What he planned to say was crucial, but the real question loomed larger: was he ready for the path his heart was pushing him toward? And what shadows awaited him as he took that step forward? With a flood of emotion swirling, he briskly stepped toward the living room, ready to embrace whatever came next: hope, fear, or perhaps both. The living room was alive with color, the walls adorned with their latest masterpieces. Jason found solace in the visual chaos, a stark contrast to the disorder that the thought of Greg brought him. The twins had turned the mundane into something charming, and he couldn't help but smile at their unfiltered joy, even amidst the turbulence swirling within him. "Look, Dad!" Lily exclaimed, waving her paintbrush like a wand. "I made a rainbow." "Wow, that's beautiful," Jason replied, kneeling beside the easel to admire her creation. The use of color, the vibrancy of her strokes, it was a reminder of innocence, something he desperately wanted to preserve. Each brushstroke felt like a reinforcement of his choice to carve a different narrative for their lives. Isabella was lost in concentration, mixing colors with a deliberate precision that reminded him of his younger self eagerly trying to master new skills. It struck him then this was the moment for learning, not just for the girls but for himself. They weren't the only ones needing growth and discovery, he needed it just as fiercely. "Can we have a paint fight?" Isabella volunteered, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Maybe just a little mess," Jason laughed, eager to join in, knowing distraction could be a boon. The madness began as colors flew, laughter erupted, and in that chaos, he felt a tether forming with each giggle shared. The moment became a giant leap forward for him, a cathartic release against the constraints imposed by Greg's looming presence, but as the colors splattered, so did nagging reminders of his impending confrontation, the unread messages still blinking on his phone, the impending words he might soon have to utter. They were waiting for him just outside this joyful bubble. After cleaning up, Jason suggested they take a short break before diving back into painting. The twins sprawled onto the couch, their cheeks still dusted with remnants of creativity. With years of experience navigating his own mental landscape, he sensed an opportunity, one that could shape the trajectory of their lives. "Girls, can we chat for a minute?" he began, choosing his words carefully. The playful air shifted slightly, they could detect the seriousness in his tone. "Is something wrong?" Lily asked, worry flickering across her features. "Not wrong, just important." He paused, assessing how best to navigate this conversation. "You know how we've been painting and creating? Every choice we make in life is like a stroke of paint. It determines the picture we're making together." Understanding seemed to dawn on them, but the apprehension remained. "There's something I need to deal with. It may seem frightening, but it's about ensuring we can keep living this way." Seeing their brows furrowed, he continued, "You've both seen how certain people in our lives can affect how we feel. I want you to know that I'm fighting to protect what we've built together." "Is it about Greg?" Isabella's directness caught him off guard, but her perceptiveness reassured him their connection was deepening. That he took a breath, trying to gauge the best approach that balanced honesty with age-appropriate vulnerability. "Yes, it involves him. But I promise you, I'm ready to stand my ground. I want you to feel safe and happy, no matter what." Lily's small hand reached for his, her trust evident. "We believe in you, Dad." At that moment, Jason felt the gravitational force of their faith in him, sparking a resolve that sent his heart racing. Yet, he still couldn't ignore the impending rival before him. Greg was not going to simply let him be. "Okay, let's create something that represents our strength," he suggested, eager to throw toxicity into creative art. This was their domain, the world he had built, and he would not surrender it without a fight. As they gathered their supplies, Jason sensed every stroke symbolized not just rebellion but empowerment. Each color merged into an expression of unity, resilience, and their collective future, but deep inside, he unearthed an unsettling truth: would armed with creativity and support be enough to fend off Greg's complexities? Would this newfound strength protect what he held dear? As the girls painted beside him, Jason's heart drummed with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The time for confrontation was closing in, and suddenly he felt stuck between the past and the path forward. Would he have the courage to protect this fragile space? And what was he truly capable of if he embraced the voice he was learning to wield? With the canvases waiting to tell their story, the specter of the looming confrontation whispered uncertainty in his ear, provoking questions that felt all too real. What new revelations awaited him on this unpredictable path? Jason stood in the living room, surrounded by swirls of color and laughter. The world outside felt distant, and the vibrant chaos of paint splatters on the floor echoed the kaleidoscope of emotions swirling within him. He breathed deeply, centering himself as the twins joyfully mixed hues, their artistry a testament to resilience and growth. Here, in this creative sanctuary, his thoughts were plagued by one pressing reality: the inevitable confrontation with Greg loomed on the horizon. Determination flooded his veins. He had spent years shackled by the expectations of others, but now, there was a clarity blossoming within him, freshly ignited by the twins' laughter and their unguarded creativity. Each brushstroke, each giggle reinforced a resolve to protect not only his daughters but also this new identity he had forged: a protector, a father, an artist. "Let us do something special today," he announced, effectively shaking aside the shadows of doubt. The twins turned, expectantly tilting their heads, and Jason's heart swelled. "How about we invite some friends over? We can turn this space into our own little gallery showcasing all the masterpieces we've created together." The twins' faces lit up with excitement as they clapped their paint-stained hands. This was the moment to expand their world beyond the confines of their recently tumultuous lives. Together, they brainstormed, laughter bubbling over every idea, and in that shared creativity, he felt fortified. "Dad, what if we also paint mirrors? To show ourselves in the art?" Lily suggested, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Yes. Let us do that," Isabella echoed, and their excitement washed over Jason like a warm tide. As they crafted a plan for their makeshift exhibition, Jason felt the delicate threads of purpose weave tightly around him. They could control the narrative in their lives, transform their worries into bursts of color. And so, as the day unfolded, he felt his fears ebbing away, replaced by the growing anticipation of what lay ahead. He was not merely a mechanic struggling through life anymore, he was a father and a guardian shaping their future. By evening, the small living room buzzed with energy. Neighbors, friends, and even some concerned parents came together to see the girls' artwork. Jason moved from person to person, speaking with the ease and confidence he had longed to embody. Conversations flowed, laughter rang out, and as the twins showcased their mirror art, they transformed their vulnerabilities into declarations of self-worth. But the chirpy atmosphere dimmed momentarily when Jason spotted Greg standing at the fringe of the gathering, arms crossed, his sneer etched into his features. Jason's heart raced, anxiety curling at the edges of his newfound strength. This encounter felt different, the stakes had risen, summoning every ounce of courage. Jason approached Greg, meeting him with an unwavering gaze. "What are you doing here?" He kept his voice steady, aware that the warmth of the gathering could collapse under tension. "We need to talk, Jason." "This isn't a joke," Greg replied, his voice low and menacing. "You're risking everything. What you're doing might jeopardize the twins. You're not fit to handle this alone." Jason's natural instinct was to retreat into defensiveness, but he steadied himself, drawing on the strength he had cultivated. "They're safe here, Greg. I promised them I would protect them, and I will. We're building something real." His proclamation hung in the air, merging with the laughter echoing from the living room. He felt the warmth of validation from the twins as they played nearby, the full essence of a new life converging in those moments. Jason sensed an awakening within himself, a determination no longer tethered to fear. It's not just about you anymore. The world you want to shield them from is far beyond your control, Greg snarled, but Jason stood firm. I refuse to let you dictate their future or mine. Your world doesn't define who I am any longer. Each word flowed with assuredness, pushing Greg's intimidation back with courage that had taken too long to nurture. The truth within Jason's heart broke free, and he realized he was not addressing Greg from a position of fear but one of resolution. It felt liberating to acknowledge the power of his choice. Greg's sneer faltered momentarily, but his tone remained incredulous. Good luck, Jason. You'll need it. You think love is enough? Love is just the beginning, Jason replied boldly. Together, we're stronger than the shadows of your past. He turned back to the gathering, each familiar face a reminder of the community they were slowly building. With pride swelling in his chest, Jason joined the twins, and when they looked up at him, he knew they saw not only their father but a man committed to forging their path with strength and creativity. As the laughter filled the room, Jason embraced the buzz around him. The risk of uncertainty remained, but as he glanced around the vibrant space, he marveled at the transformation they had embraced. His journey from mechanic to protector, from insecurity to confidence spilled into every engaged conversation, every delighted laugh from the twins who had become his heart. He had conquered the doubt within, standing firmly at the threshold of their new life, hearts intertwined in a dance of resilience and hope. This was not just a moment. This was the beginning of a story they would tell together, portrayed vividly across their canvases, in bursts of creativity, in the colorful expressions of their lives. Now, it was more than just a fight against adversity. It was an affirmation of love, a testimony to their potential, and an acknowledgement of the bonds that would ultimately shape the narrative of their lives. Jason savored this moment, an unshakable core of confidence radiating within him. He finally felt like the person he had always wanted to be, a father who would overcome, who would brave the storms, and who would paint their lives with vibrant colors of joy and possibility. This was his achievement. Now, harnessing that energy, this moment of growth and transformation must reach others. The journey was far from over. It beckoned others to join him in this promise of resilience and strength in their narratives ahead. So if you believe in the power of personal stories to unlock transformation, you need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to help spread the strength of this journey. Comment below to share your thoughts and insights on Jason's triumph. Share instantly this video with friends who need inspiration to reclaim their own stories. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. This is only the beginning, and we want you to be a part of it.